Mirandasya Jnana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rūpa Kadamahyam Udati Sarvadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rūpam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadavaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shida Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamsha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutane Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtushe Namo He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanusate Devi Pranamami Haripriya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome to the class, studying Nectar of Devotion. We're starting chapter 8 today. In the last chapter, we discussed about the different angas of bhakti described by Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī. The first 10 were actually elaborated, right? The first 10, which are the do's, pravritti. Accepting spiritual master, accepting initiation, serving the spiritual master, following the footsteps of saintly persons, inquiring about eternal religious principles, accepting only what is necessary, offering respects to sacred trees, giving up the company of non-devotees, non-accepting unfit disciples, etc. Straightforwardness in ordinary dealings. Now, chapter 8 onwards, not onwards, chapter 8, Rupa Goswami talks about the offenses to be avoided in the practice of devotional service. So these offenses are basically seva aparadh. We know offenses are of different types, isn't it? Nam aparadh, jiva aparadh, Vaishnava aparadh, Guru aparadh, seva aparadh. So here is going to talk about seva aparadh, which means the offenses committed while engaging in service to the deities of Krishna or deities of Krishna. Deities. That's called seva aparadh. So that's elaborated here. Offenses to be avoided. We'll just go through the list quickly. Yes. In the supplementary Vedic literature, there is the following list of 32 offenses in the matter of serving the Lord. First, one should not enter the temple of the deity in a car or palanquin or with shoes on the feet. Easy to understand. Second, one should not fail to observe the various festivals for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, such as Janmashtami and Ratha Yatra. Third, one should not avoid bowing down before the deity. Fourth, one should not enter the temple to worship the Lord without having washed one's hands and feet after eating. Fifth, one should not enter the temple in a contaminated state. According to Vedic scripture, if someone dies in the family, the whole family becomes contaminated for some time, according to its status. For example, if the family is Brahmana, the contamination period is 12 days. For the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, it is 15 days. and for Shudras it's 30 days. One should not bow down on one hand. One should not circumambulate in front of Krishna, Sri Krishna. The process of circumambulating the temple is that one should begin circumambulating from the deity's right-hand side of the temple and come down. Such circumambulation should be performed outside the temple structure at least 3 times daily. One should not spread his legs before the deity. One should not sit before the deity holding the ankles, elbows, or knees with one's hands. One should not lie down before the deity of Krishna. Further, Madhumati Mataji read 11 onwards. You can read the next 10.
Hare Krishna, Dandvat Pranam to you, Guruji. 11. One should not accept prasada before the deity. Number 12. One should never speak a lie before the deity. 13. One should not talk very loudly before the deity. 14. One should not talk with others before the deity. 15. One should not cry or howl before the deity. 16. One should not quarrel or fight before the deity. 17. One should not chastise anyone before the deity. 18. One should not be charitable to beggars before the deity. 19. One should not speak very harshly to others before the deity. Number 20. One should not wear a fur blanket before the deity. 21. One should not agonize or praise anyone else before the deity. And 22. One should not speak any ill names before the deity. 23.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Rashmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. Number 23, one should not pass air before the deity. Number 24, one should not fail to worship the deity according to one's means. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that the Lord is satisfied if some devotee offers him even a leaf or a little water. This formula prescribed by the Lord is universally applicable, even for the poorest man. But that does not mean that one who has sufficient means to worship the Lord very nicely should also adopt this method and try to satisfy the Lord simply by offering water and a leaf. If he has sufficient means, he should offer nice decorations, nice flowers, and nice foodstuff and observe all ceremonies. It is not that one should try to satisfy the Supreme Lord with a little water and a leaf, or for himself spend all his money in sense gratification. 25. One should not eat anything which is not offered first to Krishna. 26. One should not fail to offer fresh fruit and grains to Krishna according to the season. 27. After food has been cooked, no one should be offered any foodstuff unless it is first offered to the deity. 28. One should not sit with his back towards the deity. 29. One should not offer obeisances silently to the spiritual master, or in other words, one should recite aloud the prayers to the spiritual master while offering obeisances. 30. One should not fail to offer some praise in the presence of the spiritual master. 31. One should not praise himself before the spiritual master. 32. One should not deride the demigods before the deity.
Thank you. Okay. Next, Manish Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandvat Pranam. This is the list of 32 offenses. Beside these, there are a number of offenses which are mentioned in the Vara Purana. They are as follows. Number 1, one should not touch the deity in the dark room. 2, one should not fail to strictly follow the rules and regulations in worshipping the deity. 3, one should not enter the temple of the deity without first making some sound. 4, one should not offer any foodstuff in the deity which has been seen by dogs or other lower animals. Number 5, one should not break silence while worshipping. 6, one should not pass urine or evacuate while engaged in worshipping. 7, one should not offer incense without offering some flowers. 8, useless flowers without any fragrance should not be offered. 9, one should not fail to wash his teeth very carefully every day. 10. One should not enter the temple directly after sexual intercourse. 11. One should not enter the temple after touching a woman during her menstrual period. 12. One should not enter the temple after touching a dead body.
Thank you,
13.
Prabhu. Sujata Mataji. 13. Sujata Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. One should not enter the temple wearing garments of red or blue color or garments which are unwashed. One should not enter the temple after seeing a dead body. One should not pass air within the temple. One should not be angry within the temple. One should not enter the temple after visiting a crematorium. 18. One should not belch before the deity. So until one has fully digested his food, he should not enter the temple. 19. One should not smoke marijuana or ganja. 20. One should not opium or similar intoxicants. 21. One should not enter the deity room or touch the body of the deity after having smeared oil over his body. 22. One should not show disrespect to a scripture teaching about the supremacy of the Lord.
Thank you.
20.
Victor Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. One should not introduce any opposing scripture. 24. One should not chew betel before the deity. 25. One should not offer a flower which was kept in an unclean pot. 26. One should not worship the Lord while sitting on the bare floor. One must have a sitting place or carpet. 27. One should not touch the deity before one has completed taking bath. 28. One should not decorate his forehead with the three-lined tilak. 29. One should not enter the temple without washing his hands and feet. Other rules are that one should not offer foodstuffs which is cooked by a non-Vaishnava. One should not worship the deity before a non-devotee, and one should not engage himself in the worship of the Lord while seeing a non-devotee. One should begin the worship of the demigod Ganapati, who drives away all impediments in the execution of devotional service. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that Ganapati worships the lotus feet of Lord Narasimhadev, and in that way has become auspicious for the devotees in clearing out all impediments. Therefore, all devotees should worship Ganapati. The deities should not be bathed in water which has been touched by the nails or fingers. When a devotee is perspiring, he should not engage himself in worshipping the deity. Similarly, there are many other prohibitions. For example, one should not cross or step over the flowers offered to deities, nor should one take a vow in the name of God. These are all different kinds of offenses in the matter of executing devotional service, and one should be careful to avoid them. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Next paragraph. Sarita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams Prabhuji. In the Padma Purana, it is stated that even a person whose life is completely sinful will be completely protected by the Lord if he simply surrenders unto him. So it is accepted that one who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes free from all sinful reactions. And even when a person becomes an offender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he can still be delivered simply by taking shelter of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In other words, the chanting of Hare Krishna is beneficial for eradicating all sins. But if one becomes an offender to the holy names of the Lord, then he has no chance of being delivered.
Thank you. So if there is seva aparat, which is aparat towards the deities, that seva aparat can be counteracted by namachap, chanting of the holy names. So therefore, the chanting is the main process. If one just engages in deity worship and does not chant, one will also not become free from the offenses committed towards the deities. However, at the same time, the precaution is given is, if you chant just to overcome the offenses that you're committing, then that's the namaparat. right? So then that is also not correct. So if it's like one is thinking, I'll go to the deity room, I'll do some puja, and after that I'll chant few Mahamantras, and before that I'll chant few Mahamantras, and in this way I'll just get rid of all the offenses that I commit in the deity. So that's wrong. That's offensive mentality. Then that is Namaparad. Then that Namaparad cannot be counteracted. So therefore, Seva Aparad can be counteracted by Nama Aparad, and one should therefore take shelter of the holy names, chant the holy names nicely throughout the day. Okay, this is explained. Next paragraph. Now Prabhupada begins to iterate the offenses towards the holy name. What are they which are to be avoided? Sudhir Prabhu, please read.
The offenses against the chanting of the holy name are as follows. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second, to consider the names of demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the names of Lord Vishnu. Sometimes the atheistic class of men take it that any demigod is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. But one who is a devotee knows that no demigod, however great he may be, is independently as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, if someone thinks that he can chant Kali, Kali, or Durga, Durga, and it is the same as Hare Krishna, that is the greatest offense. Third, to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. Fourth, to blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. Six, to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. It should not be taken that because by chanting the, can you scroll up, Prabhu? To give some interpretation on the holy name. 7, to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. It should not be taken that because by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one can be freed from all kinds of sinful reaction. One may continue to act sinfully and after that chant Hare Krishna to neutralize his sins. Such a dangerous mentality is very offensive and should be avoided. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, Karma Kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Anyone can take part in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, but in the beginning, one should not be instructed about the transcendental potency of the Lord. Those who are too sinful cannot appreciate the transcendental glories of the Lord, and therefore it is better not to instruct them in this matter. Then, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Hare Krishna.
Now, if you remember, we discussed last time, Śrīla Gosvāmī says, some instructions are called pravritti, some instructions are called nivritti. Those which are to be done, they are called pravritti. Those which are to be avoided are called nivritti. Like chanting Hare Krishna is pravritti. Not eating onion and garlic is nivritti. Right? So, committing offenses or to not commit the offense, that will be nivritti. Right? Something which is to be avoided. I should not commit an offense. Correct? Isn't it? Those rules which are pravritti, they help in remembering Krishna. Those rules which are nivritti, prohibitions, they help us in forgetting Krishna. Right? Isn't it? So that's why offenses have to be avoided, so that the remembrance of Krishna, which has been created by following the do's, should not be destroyed by having done the don'ts. So this is very important for us to understand. It's like you are building the structure by doing the do's. And then by doing the don'ts, you're also destroying that structure. Right? So Krishna consciousness is being built up by doing the do's, and that Krishna consciousness can be destroyed by doing the don'ts. So that's why the don'ts have to be avoided. One should not be doing them. And the do's have to be regularly done. So this is something very interesting, because this is how actually everything functions in life. You have something, you need to preserve it. If you start neglecting it, it's going to get destroyed over time. Isn't it? Right? So similarly, it works the same for Krishna consciousness also. If I have it, I cannot be assured that I'll have it forever, regardless of me being responsible or irresponsible. I may also lose it if I don't avoid the don'ts, the nivritti. Now, the main purpose of all these rules and prohibitions are what? Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Correct? Main purpose is that. Now, let's say if there is a clash between two rules, or there is a clash between a rule and a prohibition. In that case, how will we sort out the issue? To give an example, let's say one of the rules is to immediately bow down before the spiritual master as soon as you speak the spiritual master. And then another rule is that if the spiritual master, another rule is that in front of the deity of the Supreme Lord, you should not bow down to anyone. Isn't it? Now, in that case, what if the spiritual master comes in front of the deity of the Lord and you happen to see the spiritual master? Now, if I bow to the spiritual master in front of the deity, I'm committing the offense of bowing to someone in front of the deity. And if, let's say, I follow this rule that don't bow down to anyone in front of the deity, then I am committing offense towards the spiritual master, because scriptures say as soon as you see the spiritual master, you should bow down. Right? So in that situation, then there's a dilemma. And such situations may come time and again, that one rule is clashing with another rule. So what to be done in that situation? So what will you do in that situation?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hmm.
I believe we must bow down to a spiritual master, his representation of Krishna. And morning,
That we should. But then what about the rule that you should not bow down to anyone in front of the deity?
but in iskcon, in morning we start our prayers with offering our
That
prayers.
is fine. That is fine. What you're saying is correct. But what about this rule? Then are we not breaking this rule? Then that means we cannot avoid breaking the rules.
We have
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu. We have to see which rule is more important.
But here it's nowhere mentioned this is more important. A list is given. You should do all this. So here what we'll do is we'll use the master rule. And if you are able to follow the master rule, you are correct. If you're not able to follow the master rule, you're wrong. What is the master rule? In all situations, you should remember Krishna. right? So let's say the spiritual master is in front of the deity, and the scriptures say, should not bow down to anyone before the deity. Now, you also have to show respect to the spiritual master because the scriptures say that too. Correct? In that situation, a devotee may not bow down in front of the spiritual master, but may just, nod his head to show respect, or nod her head to show respect. That I acknowledge your presence. I am being respectful to you. And do it completely in a humble state of mind because the deities are watching. So I bow down like this. So then you have followed both the rules, right? You did not really bow down before the spiritual master in front of the deity, and at the same time, you showed respect to the spiritual master, right? Or else, you may even show respect to the spiritual master in the mind. That in the mind, I bow down to you, but I cannot bow down to you because the deities are watching, right? Or you can also bow down to the spiritual master in front of the deity, considering the spiritual master as the servant of the deity for the pleasure of the deity. That can also be done. Now, in all these three situations, if I am able to remember Krishna, I am correct. Whether I do A, whether I do B, or whether I do C, right? And if I'm not able to do that I remember Krishna, then I'm wrong. Getting it? So this is how we have to use the proper attitude. If you have that proper attitude, all rules are followed. That proper attitude is not there, then the rules become an issue. Fine. So this is how we should understand. We should understand in this way. So that means what? Next time if we see a devotee is not bowing down before the spiritual master in front of the deity, don't start thinking that that devotee does not have love and affection for his or her guru. Maybe in the mind that devotee is doing. Maybe the devotee has already acknowledged the presence of the spiritual master. Isn't it? Anything is possible. And that devotee will not be considered wrong. So this is how the rules have to be understood. The master rule is there always to be taken into consideration. Okay? Fine. Next.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. There was one line saying, don't put three lines. Oh, what that's significant to Prabhuji? They haven't mentioned anything in detail on that one, just one line in that.
Don't put 3 lines.
Yeah, on the forehead, something there was a
That's for
tilk with
tilak.
three.
Tilak. We
So
have our tilak which is called Urdhva Pundra. Urdhva Pundra means it's a vertical tilak that we put, right? This is the tilak put by Vaishnavas, the vertical one. Whether you are Sri Sampradaya Vaishnava or Gaudiya Vaishnava, Madhva Sampradaya, they put Urdhva Pundra, a vertical line going up, right?
Right, Prabhuji.
But then there are Shaivites or impersonalists who put not vertical, horizontal pundra. They make horizontal lines on their forehead, especially 3 lines. They take ash and then they put like this.
Okay, got it, Prabhuji.
So if
Thank
you're a
you, Prabhuji.
Vaishnava, don't put such a tilak.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Next chapter, chapter 9. Further consideration of devotional principles. Blasphemy. Let's read. Who wants to read? Victor Prabhuji.
Blasphemy. One should not tolerate blasphemy of the Lord or his devotees. In this connection, in the 10th canto, 74 chapter, and verse 14, Osham Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Gosvāmī tells Parikshit Maharaj, "My dear king, if a person after hearing blasphemous propaganda against the Lord and his devotees does not go away from that place, he becomes bereft of the effect of all pious activities." In one of Lord Chaitanya's Shishashtaka verses, it is stated, "The devotee should be more tolerant than a tree and more submissive than the grass. He should offer all honor to others, but may not accept any honor for himself." In spite of Lord Chaitanya's being so humble and meek as a devotee, when he was informed about the injuries inflicted on the body of Sri Nityananda, he immediately ran to the spot and wanted to kill the offenders, Jagai and Madai. This behavior of the Lord Chaitanya's is very significant. It shows that a Vaishnava may be very tolerant and meek, foregoing everything for his personal honor, but when it is a question of the honor of Krishna or his devotee, he will not tolerate any insult. There are three ways of dealing with such insults. If someone is heard blaspheming by words, one should be so expert that he can defeat the opposing party by argument. If he is unable to defeat the opposing party, then the next step is that he should not just stand there meekly, but should give up his life. The whole process is followed if he is unable to execute the above-mentioned two processes, and this is that one must leave the place and go away. If a devotee does not follow any of the above-mentioned three processes, he falls down from his position of devotion. Hare Krishna.
So one should not hear the blasphemy of devotees. One should block one's ears, or one should leave that place, or one should defeat that devotee in argument. Right. Next, Tilaka and Tulsi beads. Madhumati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Tilaka and Tulsi beads. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement describing how a Vaishnava should decorate his body with tilaka and beads. Person who put Tulsi beads on the neck, who mark 12 places of their bodies as Vishnu temples with Vishnu's symbolic representation, the four items held in four hands of Lord Vishnu, conch, mace, disc, and lotus, and who have Vishnu tilaka on their foreheads are to be understood as devotees of Lord Vishnu in this world. Their presence makes the world purified, and anywhere they remain, they make that place as good as Vaikuntha. A similar statement is in the Shankha Purana, which says persons who are decorated with, Prabhuji, scroll up.
It's Skanda Purana.
Skanda Purana. A similar statement in Skanda Purana, which says persons who are decorated with tilaka or gopi chandana, a kind of clay resembling the fuller's earth that is produced in certain quarters of Vrindavan, and who mark their bodies all over with the holy names of the Lord, and on whose neck and breast there are tulsi beads, are never approached by the Yamadutas. The Yamadutas are the constables of King Yama, the Lord of Death, who punishes all sinful men. Vaishnavas are never called for by such constables of Yamaraj. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the narration of Ajamila's deliverance, it is said that Yamaraja gave clear instructions to his assistants not to approach the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas are beyond the jurisdictions of Yamaraja's activities. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Read the next also.
The Padma Purana also mentioned a person whose body is decorated with the pulp of sandalwood with paintings of the holy name of the Lord is delivered from all sinful reactions. And after his death, he goes directly to Krishna Loka to live in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
So this is something which we can also try doing when we put tilaka on our body. You know, we put tilaka on 12 parts of the body, 12 different places. So sometimes there's extra tilak which is left, the tilak paste. So I have seen devotees, what they do is they use that tilak paste to write Radha or Krishna Nam on their body, on their chest or their hand or wherever. So this is something which can be easily done. right? Because it's one of the rules that you should have Krishna Nam on your body. So previously what they would do is that they would have this is not a followed, it is still followed, but not to that extent. In sampradayas like Madhva Sampradaya and Ramanujacharya Sampradaya, earlier at the time of initiation, they would have this hot iron or steel or silver embellishment on the body, with either the Vishnu symbols, Shankar, Chakra, Gada, Padma, or the holy name, something like that. Even at present, it's done in Madhva Sampradaya. If someone is a Brahmana in Madhva Sampradaya, at the time of initiation, they get a Shankha and a Chakra mark on their shoulder or on their chest. So they put a hot iron, or maybe some metallic, symbolic, that embellishment in the fire they put, and then they put that stamp on the body. So we can't do that. But at least with the chandan paste that we apply as tilak, we can use that to write the name of Krishna or Radha on our body. That's okay. That's allowed. That's very nice. It's like, okay, so this can be done. Next, accepting flower garlands. Monish Prabhu.
Accepting flowers garlands. The next instruction is that one should put on flower garlands that are offered to the deities. In this connection, in the 11th canto, 6th chapter, verse 46 of Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Uddhava says to Krishna, "My dear Krishna, I have taken things that you have used and enjoyed, such as garlands of flowers, scented oil, garments, and ornaments, and I ate only the remnants of your foodstuffs, because I am your menial servant. So therefore, I am sure that I shall not be attacked by the spell of material energy." The purport of this verse is that for any person who simply follows these rules and regulations of decorating the body with the marks of tilka made from gopi chandana or sandalwood pulp, and who puts on the garlands that were offered to Krishna, there is no question of being conquered by the spell of the immaterial energy. At the time of earth, could you please scroll it up, Prabhuji, please? Gopi Chandana sandalwood pulps, who puts the garlands that were offered to Krishna, there is no question for being conquered by the spells of material energy. At the time of death, there is no question of such a person's being called by constables of Yamaraja. Even if one does not accept all Vaishnava principles but still takes remnants of food stuff offered to Krishna or Krishna Prasada, he will gradually become qualified to rise to the platform of Vaishnava. Similarly, in Sakanda Purana, Lord Brahma tells Narada, "My dear Narada, anyone who puts on his neck the flower garland which was formerly used by Krishna becomes relieved from all disease and reactions to sinful activities, and gradually he is liberated from the contamination of matters." Hare Krishna.
You're rushing with this.
Dancing before the deity. In the Dwarka Mahatmya, the importance of dancing before the deity is stated by Lord Krishna as follows. A person who is in a jubilant spirit, who feels profound devotional ecstasy while dancing before me, and who manifests different features of bodily expressions, can burn away all the accumulated sinful reaction he has stocked up for many, many thousands of years. In the same book, there is a statement by Narada, wherein he asserts, "From the body of any person who claps and dances before the deity, showing manifestation of ecstasy, all the birds of sinful activities fly away upward. Just as by clapping the hands, one can cause many birds to fly away. Similarly, the birds of all sinful activities which are sitting on the body can be made to fly away simply by dancing and clapping before the deity of Krishna.
Gopal Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Bowing down and standing up in honor of the deity. In the Naradiya Purana, there is a statement about bowing down and offering respect to the deity. It is said there, a person who has performed a great ritualistic sacrifice and a person who has simply offered his respectful obeisances by bowing down before the Lord cannot be held as equals. The person who has executed many great sacrifices will attain the result of his pious activities. But when such results are finished, he has to take birth again on the earthly planet. However, the person who has once offered respects, bowing down before the deity, will not come back to this world because he will go directly to the abode of Krishna, standing up to receive the Lord. In the Brahmananda Puran, it is said, a person who sees the Lord Rath Yatra core festival and then stands up to receive the Lord can purge all kinds of sinful results from his body, following the deity. A similar statement is there in the Bhavishya Puran, in which it is said, even if born of a lowly family, a person who follows the Rath Yatra core when the deities pass in front or from behind will surely be elevated to the position of achieving equal opulence with Vishnu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Then Mohan Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, understand. Going to the temple of Vishnu or to places of pilgrimage. It is stated in the Puranas, persons who attempt to visit the holy places of pilgrimage like Vrindavan, Mathura, or Dwarka are actually glorified. By such traveling activities, they can pass over the desert of material existence. In the Bhakti-sastri, there is a statement about the benefit of visiting the temples of Lord Krishna. As we have explained previously, in Vrindavan, Mathura, and Dwarka, the system is that all the devotees take advantage of visiting various temples situated in those holy places. It is stated in the Bhakti-sastri, persons who are impelled by pure devotional service and Krishna consciousness and who therefore go to see the deities of Vishnu in the temple will surely get relief from entering again into the prison house of a mother's womb. The conditioned soul forgets the trouble of living within the mother's womb during birth. But it is a very painful and terrible experience. In order to make an escape from this material condition, one is advised to visit a temple of Vishnu with devotional consciousness. Then one can very easily get out of the miserable condition of material birth.
Thank you. Circumambulating the temple of Vishnu. In this said in the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, a person who is circumambulating the deity of Vishnu can counteract the circumambulation of repeated birth and death in this material world. The conditioned soul is circumambulating through repeated births and deaths on account of its material existence. And this can be counteracted simply by circumambulating the deity in the temple. The Chaturmasya ceremony is observed during the 4 months of the rainy season in India, approximately July, August, September, October, beginning from Shravan. During these 4 months, saintly persons are accustomed to travel from one place to another to propagate Krishna consciousness, remain at one place, usually a holy place of pilgrimage. During these times, there are certain special rules and regulations that are strictly followed. It is stated in the Skanda Puran that during this period, if someone circumambulates the temple of Vishnu at least 4 times, it is understood that he has traveled all over the universe. By such circumambulation, one is understood to have seen all the holy places where the Ganges water is flowing. And by following the regulatory principles of Chaturmasya, one can very quickly be raised to the platform of devotional service. That's why Prabhupada did not emphasize so much on Chaturmasya, because the goal of Chaturmasya is to come to Bhakti. So if you're already doing Bhakti, why observe Chaturmasya then? Then just be engaged in the rules of Bhakti. Right?
Prabhuji, but I saw that in the calendars, in iskcon calendars, we show that the Chaturmas starts, and these are the
So
4
we
months.
observe it, but we don't observe it in the way it should be really, really observed. It's a very rigorous, like, fasting period of Chaturmas. But we observe in a very light manner. In the first month, avoid this. In the second month, avoid that. In the third month, avoid this. Fourth month, avoid that. But otherwise, Chaturmasya fasting is quite rigorous. You don't cut your hairs for the 4 months. You don't cut your nails. You sleep on the floor. You eat once in a day. So we don't follow with that. Next, Archana, Madhumati Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Archana. Archana means worship of the deity in the temple. By executing this process, one confirms himself to be not the body but spirit soul. In the 10th canto, 81st chapter, verse 19 of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is told how Sudama, an intimate friend of Krishna's, while going to the house of a Brahmana, murmured to himself, simply by worshipping Krishna, one can easily achieve all the results of heavenly opulence, liberation, supremacy over the planetary system of the universe, all the opulences of this material world, and the mystic power of performing the yoga system. The events leading to Sudama's murmuring these statements are as follows. Sri Krishna had ordered his friend Sudama to go to a Brahmana's house and ask for some food. Can we just scroll up, please? The Brahmanas were performing a great sacrifice, and Sri Krishna told Sudama to plead with them that he and Balaram were feeling hungry and needed some food. When Sudama went there, the Brahmanas refused to offer anything, but the wives of the Brahmanas, upon hearing that Sri Krishna wanted some food stuff, immediately took many palatable dishes and went to offer them to Sri Krishna. In the Vishnu Rahasya also it is stated, any person within this world who is engaged in the worship of Vishnu can very easily achieve the ever blissful kingdom of God known as Vaikuntha Loka. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Gopal Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Rendering service to the Lord. It is stated in the Vishnu Rahasya, any person who can arrange for service to the Lord in the same way that a king is given service by his attendants is surely elevated to the abode of Krishna after death. Actually, in India, the temples are just like royal palaces. They are not ordinary buildings because the worship of Krishna should be performed in just the way that a king is worshipped in his palace. So in Vrindavan, there are many hundreds of temples wherein the deity is worshipped exactly like a king. In the Narada Purana, it is stated, if a person stays in the Lord's temple even for a few moments, he can surely achieve the transcendental kingdom of God. The conclusion is that those who are rich in society should construct beautiful temples. Prabhuji, can you scroll? Thank you. The conclusion is that those who are rich men in society should construct beautiful temples and arrange for the worship of Vishnu, so that people may be attracted to visit such temples and thereby be offered the opportunity of dancing before the Lord, or chanting the holy name of the Lord, or else be hearing the holy name of the Lord. In this way, everyone is given the chance to elevate himself to the kingdom of God. In other words, even a common man, simply by visiting such temple, will be able to attain the highest benedictions, not to mention the devotees who are constantly engaged in the service of the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. In this connection, okay.
In this connection, there is a statement in the 4th canto, 21st chapter, verse 31 of 21st chapter, verse 31 of Srimad Bhagavatam, wherein King Prithu says to his subjects, "My dear citizens, please note that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is actually the deliverer of all fallen conditioned souls. No demigod can perform this act of delivering the conditional souls because the demigods themselves are conditioned. A conditioned soul cannot deliver another conditioned soul. Only Krishna or his bona fide representative can deliver him. The Ganges water, which is flowing down from the toe of Lord Vishnu, falls upon the earthly planet and other planets and thereby delivers all conditioned sinful living entities. So what needs is there to speak of the deliverance of persons who are always engaged in the service of the Lord. There is no doubt about their liberation, even if they have stocks of sinful activities from many births in births. In other words, a person who is engaged in the worship of the deities can minimize his stock of sinful reactions coming from many, many previous births. This process of worship the deity has already been described, and one should try to follow the rules and regulation seriously.
Thank you, Sudeep Prabhu.
Singing. In the Linga Purana, there is a statement about glorifying and singing about the Lord. It is said there, a Brahmana who is constantly engaged in singing the glories of the Lord is surely elevated to the same planet as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna appreciates this singing even more than the prayers offered by Lord Shiva. Should I continue, Prabhu?
Yes.
Sankirtana. When a person loudly chants the glories of the Lord's activities, qualities, form, etc., his chanting is called Sankirtana. Sankirtana also refers to the congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. In the Vishnu Dharma, there is a statement glorifying this process of congregational chanting. My dear king, this word Krishna is so auspicious that anyone who chants this holy name immediately gets rid of the resultant actions of sinful activities from many, many births. That is a fact. There is the following statement in Chaitanya Charitamrita. A person who chants the holy name of Krishna once can counteract the resultant actions of more sinful activities than he is able to perform. A sinful man can perform many, many sinful activities, but he is unable to perform so many that they cannot be wiped out by one single uttering of Krishna. In the 7th canto, 9th chapter, verse 18 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Maharaj Prahlada offers the following prayers to the Lord. My dear Lord Narasimha, if I can be elevated to the position of your servant, then it will be possible for me to hear about your activities. You are the supreme friend, the supreme worshipable deity. Your pastimes are transcendental, and simply by hearing of them, one can counteract all his sinful activities. Therefore, I shall not care for all those sinful activities, because simply by hearing about your pastimes, I shall get out of all the contamination of material attachments. Should I continue, Prabhu?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dayalu Govindra.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. There are many songs about Lord's activities. For example, there is the Brahma Samhita sung by Lord Brahma, Narada Pancharatra sung by Narad Muni, and Srimad Bhagavatam sung by Sukadeva Gosvāmī. If these songs are heard by any person, he can easily get out of the clutches of material contamination. There should be no difficulty in hearing these songs of God. They are coming down from many, many millions of years ago, and people are still taking advantage of them. So why at this time should one not take full advantage and thus become liberated? In the first canto, 5th chapter, verse 22 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni tells his disciple Vyasadeva, my dear Vyasa, you should know that persons who are engaged in executing austerities and penances, studying the Vedas, performing big sacrifices, chanting the hymns of the Vedas, speculating on transcendental knowledge, and performing charitable functions have for all their auspicious activities simply to gain a place in the association of devotees and chant the glories of the Lord. It is indicated here that chanting about and glorifying the Lord is the ultimate activity of the living entity. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Japa. Chanting a mantra or hymn softly and slowly is called japa. and chanting the same mantra loudly is called Kirtana. For example, uttering the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Very softly, only for one's own hearing is called Japa. Chanting the same mantra loudly for being heard by all others is called Kirtana. The Maha Mantra can be used for Japa and Kirtan also. When Japa is practiced, it is for the personal benefit of the chanter. But when Kirtan is performed, it is for the benefit of all others who may hear. In the Padma Purana, there is a statement, for any person who is chanting the holy name either softly or loudly, the paths to liberation and even heavenly happiness are at once open. Submission. Madhumati Mataji.
Submission. In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement about submission onto the lotus feet of the Lord. It is said there that those who are sober devotees can offer their submission to Krishna in the following three ways. 1. Samprathanatmika, very feelingly offering prayers. 2. Dhyana Bodhika, humbly submitting oneself. 3rd is Lalasa Mai, desiring some perfectional stage. This desiring some perfectional stage in spiritual life is not sense gratification. When one realizes something of his constitutional relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he understands his original position and wants to be restated in this position, either as friend, servant, parent, or conjugal lover of Krishna. That is called Lalasa Mai, or very eagerly desiring to go to one's natural position. This Lalasa Mai stage of submission comes in the... Prabhuji, just scroll up. This Lalasa Mai or very early... This Lalasa Mai stage of submission comes in the stage of perfect liberation, which is technically called Swarupa Siddhi, when the living entity understands by perfect spiritual advancement and revelation his original relationship with the Lord. Should I go ahead? In the Padma Purana, there is a statement of submission and feeling of devotees praying to the Lord. My Lord, I know that young girls have natural affection for young boys, and that young boys have natural affection for young girls. I'm praying at your lotus feet that my mind may become attracted onto you in the same spontaneous way. The example is very appropriate. When a young boy or girl sees a member of the opposite sex, there is a natural attraction without the need for any introduction. Without any training, there is a natural attraction due to the sex impulse. This is a material example, but the devotee is praying that he may develop a similar spontaneous attachment for the Supreme Lord, free from any desire for profit and without any other cause. This natural attraction for the Lord is the perfectional stage of self-realization. Hare Krishna.
In the same Padma Purana, there is a statement about submission in humbleness. It is stated there, my dear Lord, there is no sinful living entity who is more of a sinner than myself, nor is there a greater offender than myself. I am so greatly sinful and offensive that when I come to confess my sinful activities before you, I am ashamed. This is the natural position for a devotee. As far as conditioned soul is concerned, there is no wonder that he has some sinful activities in his past life, and this should be admitted and confessed before the Lord. As soon as this is done, the Lord excuses the sincere devotee. But that does not mean that one should take advantage of Lord's causeless mercy and accept to be excused over and over again while he commits the same sinful activities. Such a mentality is only for shameless person. Here is clearly said, When I come to confess my sinful activities, I become ashamed. So if a person is not ashamed of his sinful activities and continues to commit the same sinful activities with the knowledge that the Lord will excuse him, that is the most non-sensual proposition. Such an idea is not accepted in any part of the Vedic literature. It is the fact that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one becomes washed clean of all sinful activities from his past life. But that does not mean that after being washed off, one should again become sinful activities and accept to be washed again. These are nonsensical propositions and are not admitted in a devotional service. Someone may think, for a while, week I may commit sinful activities, and for one day I will go to the temple or church and admit my sinful activities so that I can become washed off and again begin my sinner. This is the most nonsensical and offensive, is not acceptable to the author of Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Sunny, come on. Cannot hear you. Are you reading or?
Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay, Prabhu. In the Narad Pancharatra, there is a statement of submission accompanied by the desire for perfection. The devotee says, "My dear Lord, when shall that day come when you will ask me to fan your body? And according to your pleasure, you will say, you just fan me in this way." The idea in this verse is that the devotee is desiring to personally fan the body of Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means that he is desiring to become the personal associate of the Supreme Lord. Of course, any devotee in any capacity, either as servant, friend, conjugal lover, always has direct association with the Lord. But according to his different individual taste, a person desires for just one of these relationships. Here, the devotee is desiring to become a servant of Lord and desires to fan the Lord, as does his internal energy, Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. He also wishes that the personality of Godhead will be pleased to give him direction as to how to fan this submission with transcendental desire. Or Lalsamai Vijnapati is the highest perfectional stage of spiritual realization. Shall I continue?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. In the same Narad Pancharatra, there is another expression of submission wherein the devotee says, "My dear Lord, O lotus-eyed one, when will that day come when on the bank of the Yamuna I shall become just like a madman and continue to chant your holy name, while incessant tears flow from my eyes?" This is another perfectional stage. Lord Chaitanya also desired that a moment will appear unto me as 12 years of time, and the whole world will appear to me as vacant on account of not seeing you. My dear Lord, one should feelingly pray and become eager to render his particular type of service to the Lord. This is the teaching of all great devotees, especially Lord Chaitanya. In the other words,
All right.
one
Thank
should.
you.
Okay,
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna. In other words, one should learn how to cry for the Lord. One should learn this small technique, and he should be very eager and actually cry to become engaged in some particular type of service. This is called lavyam. And such tears are the price for the highest perfection. If one develops this lavyam or excessive eagerness for meeting and serving the Lord in a particular way, that is the price to enter into the kingdom of God. Otherwise, there is no material calculation for the value of the ticket by which one can enter the kingdom of God. The only price for such entrance is this lavyam, lalasāmṛta, or desire and great eagerness. Prabhuji, should I continue?
Yes, Mataji.
Reciting notable prayers. According to the great learned scholars, the whole Bhagavad Gita contains many authorized prayers, especially in the 11th chapter, where Arjuna prays to the universal form of the Lord. Similarly, in the Gautamiya Tantra, all the verses are called prayers. Again, in Srimad Bhagavatam, there are hundreds of prayers to the Lord. So, a devotee should select some of these prayers for his recitation. In Skanda Purana, the glories of these prayers are stated as follows. Devotees whose tongues are decorated always with prayers to Lord Krishna are always given respect even by the great saintly person and sages, and such devotees are actually worshipable by the demigods. Those who are less intelligent want to worship different demigods for some material gain rather than worship Krishna. But here it is stated that a devotee who is always engaged in offering prayers to the Lord is worshipable even by the demigods themselves. The pure devotee have nothing to ask for any demigod. Rather, the demigods are anxious to offer prayers to the pure devotees. In the Narsiha Purana, it is stated, any person who comes before the deity of Lord Krishna and begins to chant different prayers is immediately relieved from all the reactions of sinful activities and becomes eligible without any doubt to enter into Vaikuntha Loka. Hare Krishna.
Sudhir Prabhu.
Partaking of prasada. There is the specific statement in the Padma Purana. A person who honors the prasada and regularly eats it, not exactly in front of the deity, along with charnamrita, the water offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, which is mixed with seeds of tulsi tree, immediately can achieve the results of pious activities which are obtained through 10,000 performances of sacrificial rites. Drinking charnamrita. Charnamrita is obtained in the morning while the Lord is being washed before dressing. Scented with perfumes and flowers, the water comes gliding down through his lotus feet and is collected and mixed with yogurt. In this way, this charnamrita not only becomes very tastefully flavored, but also has tremendous spiritual value. As described in the Padma Purana, even a person who has never been able to give in charity, who has never been able to perform a great sacrifice, who has never been able to study the Vedas, who has never been able to worship the Lord, or in other words, even one who has never done any pious activities, will become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God if he simply drinks the Charanamrita, which is kept in the temple. In the temple, it is the custom that the Charanamrita be kept in a big pot. The devotees who come to visit and offer respects to the deity take 3 drops of Charanamrita very submissively and feel themselves happy in transcendental bliss. Should I continue, Prabhu?
Yeah.
Smelling the incense and flowers offered to the deity. In the Hari Bhakti Sudodhaya, there's a statement about the incense which is offered in the temple. When the devotees smell the good fragrance of the incense which is offered to the deity, they thus become cured of the poisonous effects of material contamination, as much as one becomes cured of a snake bite by smelling the prescribed medicinal herbs. The explanation of this verse is that there is an herb found in the jungles which expert persons know how to use to revive the consciousness of one who is bitten by a snake. Simply by smelling that herb, one becomes immediately relieved of the poisonous effects of the snake bite. The same example is applicable when a person comes to visit the temple and smells the incense offered to the deity. He is cured at that time from all his material contamination. Any devotee coming into the temple should always offer something to the deity: fruit, flowers, incense, etc. If one cannot offer anything in cash, something else must be offered. In India, the system is that all the ladies and gentlemen who come in the morning to visit the temple bring so many things. Even one morsel of rice or one morsel of flour can be offered. It is a regulative principle that one should not go to see a saintly person or the deity in the temple without any offering. The offering may be very humble or it may be priceless. Even a flower, a little fruit, a little water, whatever is possible must be offered. So when a devotee comes to offer something to the deity in the morning, he is sure to smell the good fragrance of the incense, and then at once he will become cleansed of the poisonous effect of material existence.
Dayalu Govind Prabhuji, continue please.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. It is stated in the Tantra Shastra, if the smell of the garland that was offered to the deity in the temple enters into a person's nostrils, immediately his bondage to sinful activities become cleared. And even if one has no sinful activities, still, by smelling such remnants of flowers, one can advance from Mayavadi impersonalist to devotee. There are several instances of this, a prime one being the advancement of the four Kumaras. They were impersonalist Mayavadis, but after smelling the remnants of the flowers and incense in the temple, they turned to become devotees. From the above verse, it appears that the Mayavadis or impersonalists are more or less contaminated. They are not pure. It is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, one who has not washed off all reactions of sinful activities cannot be a pure devotee. A pure devotee has no more doubts about the supremacy of the personality of Godhead, and thus he engages himself in Krishna consciousness and devotional service. A similar statement is in the Agastya Samhita. Just to purify the impurities of our nostrils, we should try to smell the remnants of flowers offered to Krishna in the temple. Should I continue?
Yeah.
Touching the deity. In the Vishnu Dharmottara, there is a statement about touching the lotus feet of the Lord. It is said, only a person who is initiated as a Vaishnava is executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness has the right to touch the body of the deity. In India, there was agitation during Gandhi's political movement because the low-born classes of men like street sweepers and chandalas are prohibited according to the Vedic system from entering the temple. Due to their unclean habits, they are prohibited, but at the same time they are given other facilities so they may be elevated to the highest grade of devotional service by association with pure devotees. A man born in any family is not barred, but he must be cleansed. That cleansing process must be adopted. Gandhi wanted to make them clean simply by stamping them with a fictitious name, Harijana, children of God. And so there was a great tug of war between the temple owners and Gandhi's followers. But anyway, the present law is the law of all the scriptures, that if anyone is purified, he can enter into the temple. Actually, that is the position. Only one who is properly initiated, who is properly following the rules and regulations, can enter and touch the deity, not all. And one who touches the body of the deity, following such regulative principles, is immediately delivered from the contaminations of material sins, and all of his desire becomes fulfilled without delay. Hare Krishna.
Next, Madhumati Mataji.
In the Vishnu Dharmottara, there is a
Seeing the deity. This is done. Touching the deity is done. Seeing the deity.
Seeing the deity. In the Varaha Purana, There is a statement praising the seeing of the deity of Sri Krishna in the temple. A devotee says there, "My dear Vasundhara, any person who goes to Vrindavan and sees the deity of Govinda Deva is free from the courthouse of Yamraj and is allowed to enter into the highest planetary system, in which resides the demigods." This means that even an ordinary person who goes to Vrindavan out of inquisitiveness and by chance sees the temple, especially that of Govinda Deva, even if he is not elevated to the spiritual kingdom, is still assured promotion to the higher planetary system. This means that simply by seeing the deity of Govinda in Vrindavan, one becomes highly elevated in pious life. Let me just scroll up. Observing Aarti and celebration of the Lord. In the Skanda Purana, there is the following description of the result of seeing Aarti, worship of the deity. If someone sees the face of the Lord while Aarti is going on, he can be relieved of all sinful reactions coming from many, many thousands and millions of years past. He is even excused from the killing of a Brahmana or similar prohibited activities. As we have already explained, there are different ceremonies to be observed, such as the birthday of Krishna, the birthday of Lord Ramchandra, the birthday of some prominent Vaishnavas, the ceremony of Jhulan Yatra, with the Lord sitting on a swing, and Dola Yatra, the Lord's activities in the month of March. In all festivals, the Lord is seated on a car, and the car moves through different streets of the city so that people can take advantage of visiting the Lord. In the Bhavishya Purana, it is said, in such a ceremony, if even a Chandala, dog eater, simply out of curiosity sees the Lord on the cart, he becomes counted as one of the associate of Vishnu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. In the Agni Purana, it is stated, any person who in gladness see the worship of the deity in the temple will obtain the results of Kriya Yoga, which are described in the Pancharatra scripture. Kriya Yoga is a system of practice much like practical devotional service, but is especially meant for the mystic yogis. In other words, by this gradual process, the mystic yogis are eventually elevated to the devotional service of the Lord. Okay. So Śrīla Rūpa Gosvāmī has given us various references and evidences of why we should engage in these devotional activities and what are the benefits that one accrues by engaging in these devotional activities. That is to inspire us why we should be doing. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, couple of things are happening, like we just read it now, that you have to do this deity service, or like this we can do. Couple of, they have given the rule, if you do this, you will be liberated. Touch the feet if you are being a Vaishnava and a Brahmanical initiation has been done, you can do that. So the person who is not that and still doing activities in the temple, cleaning up the temple and other things. So we are hearing always that it's the same equal level. So here I won't see anything like that. How we can relate those things?
You mean to say someone is initiated as a Brahmana and someone is not initiated as a Brahmana, then the results will be different?
Not the different, but that point has not been mentioned here in all these numbers, but we have read it. Yeah, in like one point was saying if the person is been initiated, is allowed to touch the feet of deity.
Which initiation is that? That is Brahman initiation. That's quite obvious, right?
Right.
If you are not initiated as a Brahmana, you will not be allowed to touch the deity of the Lord in the temple.
Absolutely. I got that point, Prabhuji. My point is, from that point, I'm trying to make the point is, if the person is not initiated and he is or she is doing the service, other services like cleaning up the toilets, cleaned up the temple, or do other things. And we hear in the temples most of the time that if person is doing any service in the temple or just doing that, is equally important and is equal as the Brahminical
It's true,
person is
which is
doing.
equally important.
Okay.
Which
So
is
why that
equal.
not been mentioned here in these points then?
Why it has to be mentioned here? It is mentioned elsewhere in the other parts of Prabhupada's books. Why it has to be mentioned here? Did we not
Because we are
read that
reading.
did we not read that in Bhagavad Gita? You do any service to Krishna is equally important or same.
I totally agree with that point, but if that is important, it doesn't have to be included here.
But why it has to be included? If you are an intelligent person, you should not be so narrow-minded that you just take one line of the scripture and just keep on banging on that. Why it is written like this? Take other lines given elsewhere also, no?
I don't want to comment, but this is going to be contradictory in that way, Prabhuji, because one line is not, I'm not talking the one line. The point is, if we consider that the person is also, because what is happening behind the scene, the reason what I'm asking is, people think after reading this, oh, I have to go to that level that I can do deity worship and do these
So
type of things
people
instead of
think
doing
that, then
this.
people should ask question. No. People think then they should ask question. They should ask question. A person may have thousands of wrong opinions. Do you think that Rupa Goswami or Prabhupada is going to address each wrong opinion, each paragraph or each purport or each chapter? No, every time you come up with a wrong opinion and then we want something to be included in the book to address that. No, right?
Well, that is true, Prabhuji, but the point is, again, if it's okay, I totally agree with you. That doesn't mean that it has to be included. I absolutely agree with that, because
Because you
these
see,
points are
your point
different.
would be valid if nowhere in no scripture, anywhere it is written like that Prabhupada skipped it or Rupa Goswami skipped it. But that question itself is wrong, that it should be included here also. Why? Who are you to say that it should be included here? Or who are we to decide? Rupa Goswami will decide what should be included or not. Isn't it? If you are misusing or I'm misusing or someone else is misusing the statements of the scriptures, or if you are misunderstanding, I'm misunderstanding, or someone else is misunderstanding, there's nothing wrong on the author's part. Right? Isn't it?
That's right. That's their way of writing, and we are following that. But
it's not their way of writing. They have written what has to be there. Isn't it? Now, if someone is studying Prabhupada book, someone is reading Nectar of Devotion. Before reading Nectar of Devotion, that person will read other books, right? Isn't it? Bhagavad Gita and other books. Right or wrong? Is in Prabhupada's lectures or books, has he not mentioned so many times, whether you're cleaning the temple, whether you're washing the pots, whether you're pujari on the altar, whether you're chanting Hare Krishna, it's all same because it's all devotional service. Now, if I don't understand it or someone else doesn't understand it, that's my problem or his problem or her problem.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
So we should understand scriptures in a holistical manner, and we should know the author has written it with a purpose. So let's not try to, the way we start thinking in this way, then we become offensive. We are finding faults with the author. Why Prabhupada did not write like this, or why Prabhupada wrote like this, or why Rupa Goswami has not mentioned this. If the teaching is incomplete, then yeah, we can say, but it doesn't mean it's incomplete. They have mentioned in different places. Now, if the subject matter is different, why they have to mention this point again and again? Even if you're not born in a Brahmana family, even if you're not a Brahmana, and you are doing some seva, it's the same as touching the feet of the Lord. And at that point, the importance of touching the feet of the Lord is to be emphasized. So why will he bring another point? Now, elsewhere, when he has to bring up this point, whether you are doing seva to the deity, or you're chanting the holy name, or you're serving the Vaishnava, it's all same. Then he'll bring up that point. Here he has to bring up this point, that if you are serving the deity of the Lord, then you're touching the deity with the feet of the Lord. It's very, very auspicious or beneficial. So we should have a more, sane approach towards studying the scriptures or reading it. It will be helpful to our spiritual life. Otherwise, we'll unknowingly commit offenses. So they're trouble.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, in this chapter, mostly the different activities or the practices, they're helping the practitioner or the devotee get free from getting rid of sinful activities and achieving the ultimate goal. But at the same time, in performance of these activities, there are also some other important factors like being mindful, like laulyam also, eagerness, service to the devotees, which are also very important when we perform these activities. So how do we understand when when the scripture says you attain this ultimate perfection, at the same time it does not speak about these important factors? How do we understand?
Which practice?
Mindfulness, eagerness, service to devotees, avoiding offenses.
Yeah.
These are all very important in performances of all of these different practices that are being mentioned in this section, no Prabhu?
But then it has already been covered before, no? Or it will be covered separately. So far, how many limbs we have discussed? Not 64 in all, isn't it? Gosvāmī is telling 64. So all 64 are not covered yet. Many are left to come in the next chapters. So they will mention about Vaishnava Seva. Right? At this point, he's just taking one those points which we discussed in the list of 64. And then he's giving reference. Why this? Why this? Why this? Why this? So in other place it will come. So now he said mindfulness. What is mindfulness? Being attentive. So what is being attentive? Whatever you're doing it consciously, or you're doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. That is already given in the definition of pure devotional service. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavitam anukulena krishnanusheelna bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu. How can it be anukul devotional service or a devotional service giving pleasure to Krishna if I am not doing it mindfully?
So it is implicit that all these activities, it is implicitly understood that those factors are there.
Yeah, it has to be. See, what is been already covered is covered. We should know that the platform is set. He has already defined pure devotional service. This is what is expected from you if you are practicing pure devotional service. Now, on that platform, he is giving us do's and don'ts. If I just do these things, but I don't have anukul bhav, if I just do these things, let's say, but I don't have anukul bhav towards Krishna, then the whole premise is lost, na?
Yes.
So that premise is already set in the beginning of the book. Therefore, when we are studying Bhakti-rasāmṛta-sindhu, we should know he has not written this book for any so-called religious inquirer or curious person. He has written this book for those who have understood that pure devotional service is the goal and the practice, and they are the readers of this book. So everything is given for them. That's the context which is set.
Yes, Prabhu. The reason I asked this question is, Prabhu, in one lecture, I heard about the importance of circumambulation of the deities. In that, the speaker mentioned about some animal, it could be a rat, I think mostly, circumambulating some number of times, and then because of that, it attained some higher form of life. So there we see that this factors like mindfulness is not there, but it is achieving something higher. So in that connection, I was just asking.
But then in that case, first of all, when you're talking about an animal, how is an animal different from a human? Very different, right? Second thing, what amount of benefit So even if I chant the holy name mindlessly, am I also not getting any benefit at all? I will also get some benefit,
Yes.
isn't it? So there's no such example, okay, the rat circumambulated and immediately the rat got Krishna Prema. The rat circumambulated, that rat got liberation,
Yes.
isn't it? Correct? Mhm.
Mm.
And we'll discuss later also, what about the past lives of that rat? Maybe in the past life, that rat has already completed devotional service to 99.9%. Who knows? Or 90%. Who knows?
Mm. Yes, bro.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm. When something is emphasized, everything else is minimized. That's how you emphasize something. So here the point is circumambulate the deity. That's the point to be emphasized. So give an extreme example. Even when a rat circumambulated the deity, the rat got so much benefit. So if you are a human being and you circumambulate the deity, how much benefit you will get? That's the way to convey the message, that this is how you tell. Like, for example, if you want to make something more important, how do you do that? Make other things less important,
Yeah.
isn't it? Then only it becomes more important. So that's how. Now, for example, let's say Srila Prabhupada is the founder Acharya of this movement, and for him, every devotee is important, and for him, every seva in the movement is important because without all the services, the movement cannot run, right? But it's
Yes.
the month of December, and Srila Prabhupada wants that in this month, we want to focus on book distribution.
Yes.
So, what he will do, everywhere he goes, in every lecture, he'll say, book distribution is the most important activity.
Yes.
Why he used the word most? Because at that moment, he wants that to be done. Now, if hearing this lecture, if a devotee starts thinking, book distribution is the most important activity, let's stop cleaning the temple.
That
Let's
would be
stop,
immature.
let's stop worshipping the deity. Because this is most, that's a way of emphasizing something.
Mm.
That doesn't mean that other things are not important. Correct, isn't it?
Yes.
So similarly, if Rūpa Gosvāmī is saying, do this, he will emphasize that so much so that we are inspired to do it. But that doesn't mean that he is then saying other things are wrong, other things should be neglected, all that. No.
Yes. So in one sense, your explanation also is connected to the earlier question asked by someone. It seems to be very relevant to the more emphasis on a particular thing, right? No, Prabhu?
Correct. Yeah, more emphasis on a particular thing at a particular time.
Ah.
Now, if let's say Rūpa Gosvāmī has been asked to deal with this issue, which seva is more important and which seva will take you closer to Krishna, then what he will do? Then he'll say, all the sevas are important and take you closer to Krishna, right? Whether you are a pujari or not doesn't matter. Whether you're doing the seva or not doesn't matter. Because that will be the topic at that time.
Yes. Yes, bro. Thank you, bro.
Rashmi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you said about this sampradaya, with the hot iron, they impress the body with tilkas or the symbols of Vishnu. So in Vaishnavas, are we allowed to do the tattoos? That needle work they do it on the tattoos. Can we?
It is, people
Krishna
do
Vishnu.
that. People do that. People do use tattoos or put tattoos on their body. However, that's not a ceremony done by the spiritual master. You just go to the market and you get it done by yourself, correct? On your own, isn't it? So in that sense, then that activity is considered to be tamasic because you're torturing your body for no sake, for no purpose. Mm. So then it's torture to the body. So then it's considered tamasic activity. Should not be done.
So not recommended.
Should not be touched. But then, okay, it's a special day and the spiritual master is doing it to purify us. Then it's a different thing. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, to give an example, the doctor puts injection to you. That's a different thing. And every day you put injection to yourself. It's a different thing.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Hmm.
Okay, and Prabhuji, I have one thing to share with you, like now, like about the glories of Charnamrita. Like my mother was in hospital for 21 days on a ventilator, and there was hardly any chance for her to come back to this life again. But one of the devotees, Mercy, I got a Charnamrita from one of the temple, and in the ICU we are not supposed to enter, and the lady was of Christian, the nurse of her was a Christian faith, but I requested her, please somehow make some Charnamrita, at least 3 drops to drink, make her drink. And she did it, and that nurse like very helpfully did that. And the surprise was the next day my mother was out of ventilator. So that is the glory of Charnamrita. And so I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. All these things are very, very potent and powerful.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And for the person who needs it the most, they work also.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right?
Very well.
Yeah. And one who needs it the most, they show the potency. Yes, they are going for it.
Hi Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, one comment and one question. So some of the previous questions, actually, you had explained today that the master rule that you have to remember is whatever pleases Krishna is it should be done, and whatever is not going to please Krishna and the Guru, it should probably not be done. So that is something. Thank you so much for that. Prabhuji, my question is with regards to the blaspheming of devotees, right? So one of the options given was to give up your life if you are not able to get away from the place where the blasphemy is happening. So sometimes you see that in your life that you get like stuck in those places, you are not able to get out as well. So but you are end up hearing all these things. So in this situation, what should we do, Prabhuji? That is,
Try our best to avoid. And still, if you're not able to avoid, then you don't take it seriously. Just hear and throw it out. Don't carry it in your mind. What to do? We can't kill ourselves. So we have to just neglect it. Some people, they very smartly get up from such place and walk in.
because sometimes it feels like then if we get up and walk, then that will be blasphemy to the
No,
person.
you do it in a smart manner. That's all. And if the other person is feeling bad, then let that person feel bad. You're not doing something wrong anyway. That other person should also get a signal now that it's enough now. I'm crossing the limit. Why am I talking wrong about someone unnecessarily? Like that, we have to help that person by not listening to offensive words about someone else. Do that.
Thank you.
You can just tell very simply to that person, you see, it's a waste of time talking about others. Let's do something more positive. Either we help that person or we don't talk about that person. It's a waste of time. Actually, it is waste of time only, no? We are not able to help that person. We are just talking about bad.
The problem with that is some fragments of those talks will always be in your mind, even if you try to ignore them.
Yeah, correct. It will linger in your mind. So it's risky, unhealthy. Okay, fine. Thank you. All right, see you. On coming Thursday, it's Nityanand Trayodashi. I don't know if you all will be available for the class. If yes, we'll keep the class. If no, then we'll keep it next week. Nityanand Trayodashi as such, the festival is during the daytime, Abhishek and all that. So if you're available, we can do the class till in the morning.